Last year, the Jacksonville Jaguars actually told well-conditioned athletes to gain weight after they both had the best year of their careers. I'll tell you about it today on Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It is your team every day here on Locked On Jaguars. We thank you for making us your first listen. I am Tony Wiggins, the host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast that you can find wherever you get your podcast. Just make sure you tap into that location each and every day. Whether you watch or listen, we will be there because we're free to subscribe to and we are daily. That is correct. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets. Win your first $5 bet wins. Hello to the everydayers for joining us. And if you're new here, I'm glad you're here. And hopefully I'll give you a reason to come back. Locked On Jaguars, we just follow the closest stories about the Jacksonville Jaguars through OTAs, training camp, and minicamp. And today, it's a little bit of a reactionary show. We're responding to something we heard from Joshua Hines Allen, and I'll get to that at the very top in just a second. First, we're going to end the show with going over one win and one loss. I'm going to look at the schedule, and I'm going to point out a game that the Jaguars probably won't be favored in, at least right now before the season starts, because, you know, as the ebb and flow of the season goes, things change and opinions of teams change. But there's a game that they're probably not favored to win. I'm going to pick them to win it. And then there's a game that they're probably going to be favored to win or to win. I'm going to pick them to lose it. One win, one loss in the third segment. Travis and Tank have a shot behind a better line and scheme. By Travis, I do not mean Travis Hunter. I mean Travis Etienne. And by Tank, I mean Tank Bigsby. I think a lot of discussion has gone into the running backs, what their future is going to be, who's going to be here. Liam Cohen shot down a thought that Travis Etienne was going to get traded. So I'm going to tell you today why I believe there'll be a little bit more success than people think based on scheme and personnel. But at the top, now wait one damn minute. And when I say wait, I don't mean W-A-I-T. I mean W-E-I-G-H-T. Josh Allen said yesterday, I don't know if he said it, but it came out that Josh Allen was over 280 some odd pounds last year. And he couldn't wait to get back to himself. And if you notice, not only him, but Trayvon, who I heard was north of that a little bit, they could not wait to get back down to their normal playing weight, 270-ish, 265-ish. Nobody wants to be 285, 290 pounds unless you're playing in a 3-4. Or unless you're playing inside. But it goes back to a bigger problem that the Jacksonville Jaguars have had. And I'm going to illuminate that, but I'm not going to harp on it because it's the past, but I'm going to show you why your present has a lot to do with your future being better than that past that we're going to point out. So, Josh Allen has 17 sacks. Trayvon Walker has 10.5 sacks. As a duo, that's the best tandem in the NFL. They win 9 games, but they missed the playoffs because lost the last game of the year. Some other stuff happened. Could have gone back 2 years in a row had they just won one of those games late in the season. Didn't happen. They fired Mike Caldwell, and they hired Ryan Nielsen. But they kept Doug Peterson, the entire offensive staff, and, of course, GM Trent Baalke. Here's where it gets murky. Why on earth would you tell those two dudes that had a career year to do anything differently than what they have been doing? If that ain't the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life, I don't know what it is. And then last year, both of them had subpar seasons. Well, Trayvon said he wore out at the end of the year. He had 10 sacks. He could have had 16 probably had he not been worn out. Josh didn't have as good a year. I think he had 8.5 sacks. The team won 4 games. Tell me where it is normal for a coach to come in when guys have been successful at something and change their conditioning and change their body composition and expect the result to be the same. Here's why that happened. And I'm guessing, but I'm going to take a real good stab at it. And I'm going to take a stab at it because it falls right in line with some things that I have said in the past that I can't stand about regimes when they fail to just make a complete start all over again. The Jaguars looked like they were poised to give Trent Baalke his third coach in 5 years. Where do you think Ryan Nielsen heard what the problems were with the defensive ends or the edge rushers? Where do you think he heard that from? Is either Doug Peterson or Trent Baalke, or a combination of both? Why would you tell a dude to gain 15, 20 pounds after you just gave him a contract extension? You're paying him to be what he was, not something new. You never pay people to do something you haven't seen them do unless they're college players. This goes back to us being happy about being nothing more than themselves. It's bad enough that it's hard for certain GMs to evaluate talent up to par. And it's bad enough that it's hard for some GMs, even though they know how to evaluate talent, to be able to build it and make it one team, one unit, one cohesive unit. It's bad enough when you're not a good communicator that you'll then go and tweak really, really good players when they don't need it and tell the new coach whatever you had to. Ryan Nielsen had a reputation of being someone who was a player's coach that all of his players from New Orleans to Atlanta, they were crazy about it. But that didn't happen here. And a couple of dudes that are really, really good human beings are the ones that it didn't happen with. Doesn't mean that everybody needs to always line up and like each other, but it says something. And what it says to me is Ryan Nielsen came in here he was a lame duck defensive coordinator, had been sold a bill of goods by the staff members that were still here that probably should have been fired when the other guys were fired, from a GM that wants to justify everything that he does as to why it doesn't work or why it isn't working the way he wants it to. If somebody tells you what's wrong, what it's akin to is this. You start dating somebody and they got an ex. And then that ex's mother, the person you're dating, their former in-law, sits down with you and tells you all of this bad stuff about your people. And then you go into the relationship treating them the way that you would think that you would have to treat them based on what you were told. And it's totally unfair and it's wrong. You're doing the same thing that the people who they don't want to be with no more are doing. And that's what that seemed like to me. It seemed like to me, Ryan Nielsen was sold a bill of goods about his players, and he believed it. And he came in here doing things a certain way, and it alienated everybody. It ain't the first time players and coaches have been alienated, but when you start making guys change their body composition, you're messing with their long-term livelihood from a perception standpoint and from a physical standpoint. And I think it's really, really egregious. And I'm going to let it go with that. But I can't believe that they did that to that extent. I had heard, but I didn't know it was multiple players. And it was bad. And they wouldn't listen. Aren't you glad you have a new regime now? A complete new regime. Aren't you? Do you now see the vision that made me get really, really angry and say Schaub was the worst owner in sports when he decided to keep Trent Baalke? Now I hope that everyone doesn't get this by accident and they understand that being proactive and being intentional about being great at something, it matters. You're not a napkin in a windstorm anymore. Good job, Schaub. Starting completely over. I don't know if it's going to work, but that's the only chance we have because the other way wasn't going to work. All right, talk about these running backs. We keep forgetting that they're getting a new lease on life as well. We'll do that in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. All right, today's show is sponsored and brought to you by FanDuel. Man, the NBA playoffs in full swing and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances. major momentum shifts and can't miss momentums, whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player. There's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. Now, I'm going to tell you something. Somebody's going to win a title this year in the NBA that hasn't won one before. You're going to have a new superstar. Would it be in OKC or Indiana? You need to find out, man. I'm telling you. New to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, we rocking and rolling here, man, on Locked On Jaguars, where it is your team every day. We just talked about the weight gain that was forced on our edge rushers, and probably a few more people last year. It did not work out. My boy Sam hit me up yesterday, and he said, man, I knew their get-off didn't look the same, and they looked a little bit sluggish and all that. Yeah. I thought they were just dead-legged is what I thought. I didn't realize they had gained that much weight. Touche. We're moving on now to the running back situation. A lot of speculation about Travis Etienne and whether or not he has a long-term future here in Jacksonville. Well, Liam Cohen put to rest the thought that this team was actively looking to move Travis Etienne. He just said it just wasn't true. Coaches have said that kind of stuff in the past, and things still come to pass. But I believe Liam, one, because he said it with the amount of gusto that he said it with, and then two, well, yeah, I mean, we have to understand that what we've seen from Travis Etienne and what we've seen from Tank Bigsby, if we keep it at a buck, we didn't like Doug Peterson's leadership. We didn't like Press Taylor's offense. We didn't like Gabe Davis at receiver. Some of us didn't like the idea of a move tight end in Evan Ingram because he doesn't block. A few of us didn't like the fact that everybody thought Christian Kirk was a little bit better than he was. And we definitely didn't like the offensive line. If you listen to Locked On Jaguars over the course of the last 4 or 5 years, you know that's been a sore spot for me, probably longer than that, 9 or 10 years. So running backs depend on the quarterback being healthy, the quarterback being able to have time to throw the ball because it keeps everybody honest and gives them running lanes. The quarterback putting the team, being able to have enough success to put the team in certain down and distance situations that is really, really conducive to them getting first downs and keeping possession of the ball. And you want to be able to get the ball and not get hit faster than any other running backs in the National Football League. Then we can give a proper assessment of whether or not Travis Etienne is any good or Tank Bigsby is better than we think, or at least as good as we hope he can be. Etienne to this point has been a little bit of a disappointment, but the Jaguars have been a disappointment for most of his tenure here. Just like Trevor Lawrence has disappointed somewhat. This isn't what y'all thought Trevor would be, even though we spend most of our time defending him to national people because they don't see the big picture, the everyday picture here. People just care about results. Travis Etienne and Trevor Lawrence at Clemson was like the dynamic duo, man. It was like Matt Leinart and Reggie Bush. Close. Not quite Reggie Bush, but you get my point. It just hasn't happened. That didn't happen the way everybody thought it was going to happen. But it just hasn't happened. And it's because I believe of the entire team. A little bit of it could be the fact that maybe they're not as good as what their college tape says. I know Etienne he's not a little guy, but he's not a big guy, but he runs the style of running that he has with those long strides. You would like to see him a little bit bigger. If he was like Le'Veon Bell size, you'd be like, okay, I can go with 6'1", 220 or whatever, running like that. But being 210, 215, whenever he gets hit, man, I don't know if it's me, but doesn't it seem like the way he runs, I don't know if his feet are too far apart. It seems like when Travis Etienne gets hit, it's like Wile E. Coyote, bro. It's like the whole world falls apart. It's almost like when the cheetah trips up one of them gazelles and he stumbles and falls all over the place. I'm like, every hit on Etienne looks terrible. And y'all know that. I ain't the only one. They say it in the press box when we're watching the game. It's like, damn, he looks like every time he get hit, man, he just had like a car accident or something. Like he was on a motorcycle and got hit by a dump truck. That's the way it feels like. So there's something to be desired about that. The other thing is Tank Bigsby. I think Etienne, by the way, Etienne is a good NFL player. I don't know if he'll ever be great enough for you to say that that number one pick should have been used somewhere else. Now, Tank Bigsby, running style. He's a bruiser, but he got a little giddy up now. Don't think Tank ain't fast. Tank can play. And Tank kind of redeemed himself a little bit too with his play last year until the whole thing just kind of fell apart for everybody. But it wasn't to the point. It wasn't, his performance wasn't to the point where people weren't around here saying, okay, Ashton Jeanty makes sense. And I do believe if the Jaguars weren't able to make a trade, I think they would have taken Ashton Jeanty. They did take two running backs, one in the fourth and one in the seventh. That doesn't equal the fifth pick overall, but it does tell you that they did see a need for more people and more depth and a more complete room in that respect. And then they're probably looking towards the future a little bit because Tank wasn't a first-round pick. He was a third-round pick, which means he's probably going to be a free agent here pretty soon. And then Etienne is definitely a free agent. He didn't get his fifth-year option picked up. So, in fact, I'm sorry, he's playing on his fifth-year option. Devin Lloyd is the one that didn't get his fifth-year option picked up. So the thing is, man, I want to wait and see if they were okay at times without a really good line. I think with a better line and a better scheme and everybody around them playing better, and with Travis and Diami Brown and, of course, Brian Thomas Jr., I'm telling you, man, they got a chance to have some stuff that they didn't have, some blue sky and some green grass that they didn't see, some looks that they did not see in the past because no one had enough respect for the Jaguars offense to really fear them enough to create situations where those running lanes would be better off or would be more open. Those guys got hit way too early, man. Absolutely way too early. I want to go through the Jaguar schedule, and I want to point out two games. One, where if you're asking people right now, they'll be the favorite. But it's a game that's a formula game a little bit, and you got to watch yourself. You would, as a fan, would probably expect the Jaguars to win it, and I'll say that they probably won't. But then we're going to flip it around, too. We're going to talk about the game that they probably won't be favored to win, but that they're going to lose. Go through the schedule and talk about those two games in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. All right, man, we ripping and running here on Locked On Jaguars in the third segment. We've gone over a couple of things, talked about the running backs and the big old sumo wrestling having defensive ends that they made y'all put up with last year. Now we're going to talk about one win, one loss. Let's get to this Jaguar schedule. Of course, I ain't talking about preseason games, so we can get past that. One win, one loss. Ironically, the chance of a loss might come week one against Carolina at home. Opening day, everybody's waiting on the Jaguars to come out and show the new explosiveness, and everybody is wanting the new regime to get off to a fast start. They come out in week one against a team that wasn't much worse than they were last year. Definitely wasn't no better. And then I just think it's one of those clunky, ugly, silly games. Similar to one of the games that the Jaguars can sometimes play against the Colts when they go up to Indy and they kind of outplay them and lose. I think it's the kind of game you'll see enough from the team that you won't give up after week one. But of course, you'll hear the skeptics. I think it's a game where there'll be stats galore, big plays galore. You'll see the defense running around and moving around, but it comes down to one of those 26-23 type deals. Maybe a blocked field goal or something weird that the Jaguars can't take advantage and win this game. And if that happens, man, people are going to come out in droves. And then, what will happen after that is the Jaguars have 3 consecutive games after that where they go to Cincinnati. Okay. They'll go to the Bengals. Let's see here. I think I got this schedule screwed up a little bit. Maybe. No, that's right. I got this line in my glasses where I can't see real well if I'm too close or too far. I got to back up a little bit, but if I do that, y'all won't hear me on my mic. So I'm getting these dates. It's like, right, I got to move my laptop because I'm right in the middle of nearsighted and farsighted, and these glasses ain't helping me at all, but I can't see it without them. But the Panthers game, the opening game, it could get a little tricky on September 7th. I think they go and win at the Bengals the next week in another shootout. Then I think they come home against the Texans and win. I think they're going to go out west and beat the 49ers, even though nobody likes going out west. That will make them 3-1. And then they come home for Monday Night Football against the Chiefs. I think the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to beat the living hell out of Kansas City on that night and become 4-1. Win one, lose one. If you come out of the gate right away and you lose the game to Carolina, don't panic. Don't panic. They got a nice little 3-game slate right after that. And then they come back home and they play. And those 3 games are tough now. Don't get it twisted. So that's why losing that game at the first week might go, man, we got to go play the Bengals and that high-powered offense. And then we got the Texans at home. Man, we could be 0-3. And then they got a West Coast swing against the 49ers. I think that little bit of a gauntlet and them surviving is what's going to make you start believing. I think they're going to come home and beat the Chiefs. It's going to be similar to the way Tampa beat both Philly and Detroit last year. Like, you might not think they're better, but on this day, they're going to send notice that, no, this ain't the same old team, man. And if they do that, watch out, because then they got the Seahawks after that. Then, of course, that would set up, they'll be 5-1 when they go and play the Rams, who I anticipate will have a really, really good team. And that makes that Rams-Jaguars game huge, in my opinion, in London. And that's when the whole world will be watching. And that's when the Jaguars have a real good chance to show everybody exactly what the future is going to be. Look, the Super Bowl ain't going to be won. Well, I ain't going to tell y'all they can't win it this year. I would never do that. But what I'm saying is there's a nice little process that comes with this. And the process is you want to get better. Ultimately, the Super Bowl is the goal, right? But the thing that you have to do before you get there is you got to tighten your ship up and be the type of team, in my opinion, that is where Baltimore is right now. And I know a lot of people they get on Baltimore, man, and they start riding Baltimore without even acknowledging the fact that there's a whole nother team called Kansas City that has been to like 5 of the last 6 Super Bowls, and they've done it for a reason, right? And I know Baltimore doesn't always lose to Kansas City, so there's a little bit of something to be said about that too. But that's where you want to be. You want to be to the point in a 7 to 10 year window. Build your roster to the point where you're good enough at the quarterback position and have special players. I think the Jaguars are closer to having more special players on offense than they are defense at this point. But one of those players is special, and that's Travis Hunter. Y'all see Travis Hunter in practice. knocking the ball down and still making a play on the ball. Some people were saying it would have been incomplete. Some people were talking about, well, it's still number 88. Who is that? Let me explain something to you. Most of the people that you saw Travis Hunter playing against in college weren't as good as whoever number 88 was yesterday. I said most of them, not all of them, but a lot of them weren't. You're in an NFL camp, there's something about you. And you're talking about a dude that's been running all of these reps on offense. He just switches over to defense and is able to flip his hips, run downfield with a dude at the very least who's on an NFL roster for training camp. And some of y'all are sitting there complaining about it, saying it ain't a big deal. He was just playing offense yesterday. Sometimes I just don't get it, but they have enough special people with him and Brian Thomas Jr. I think they're real special on offense. I think Trevor can be really good. I think with an improved offensive line and Liam Cohen being a mastermind and being able to make offenses go. I was telling my boy Sam yesterday, if you remember the Florida Gator Kentucky game, the Ray Davis game is what I call it. And I always watch the Gators and I watch the Noles, but I watch the Gators if things ain't going well for them, because I'm just going to admit I'm a certified hater when it comes to that stuff. The Ray Davis game made my heart melt because I thought Norv Turner was calling the plays. It was Liam Cohen, and he would not stop giving Ray Davis the ball. I think Ray Davis had 40 carries for almost 300 yards. And that just tells you, man, if he sees the bleeding, he's going to keep going for it. And he's going to pound that thing right at you until you stop it. It's a family show. So, yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it. I think Trayvon is special. I think Josh is special. Travis can be special when he's on that side of the defense. I think they got to get a little bit closer with those guys on that side before we can start putting them in that category of a team that is ready to be a 7 to 10 year window team to challenge for a title, and they can go and get them one or two. I'm telling you, you get that first one, the next one. Now, getting to the Super Bowl and losing is hard to get back. But if you get there and win and become a champion and you get that DNA, you will always think that your team is going to be able to do it. And they'll always believe. As long as there are one or two people on that roster and the coach is still there and the quarterback is still there, they'll always believe that they can make a run at it. And I think the Jaguars have to get to that point. And if they get into that window, that 7 to 10 year window where their team is built right, they have the good coaches, they have continuity on their staff, and then they can go ahead and make a run for it. You guys can find out more about the rosters, find out who number 88 is. All you got to do is check out Locked On NFL Scouting with Kyle Krabs and Joe Marino. Those two know the NFL and personnel better than anyone and can get you ready for the NFL season this year and make you one of the smartest fans in the world. Check out Locked On NFL Scouting wherever you get your podcast. We'll see you all tomorrow. I think I'm going to make it out to OTAs if this rain holds off. I just can't run in the rain, so I can't get caught in it. But just in case, man, I'll be there. Hopefully, with bells and whistles on, it can give y'all a little bit of a report from OTAs. Tomorrow's show will obviously be an afternoon show, an evening show rather, because of the roundtable with the offensive and defensive coordinators, and we want to give you that as soon as possible. You guys take care of each other. We'll see you next time here on Locked On Jaguars.